Okay, so last push here for the end of this section, and very important section. They want us to find the value of the cosine for this one. Now, given that this is the sine, remember, in order to find any of these trig functions right now, the way we've defined them, we need to know just x, y, and r. So you give me an x and a y, and I can find an r. If you give me an r and a y, I can find an x. In fact, that's the sort of thing that's going to happen here. So we'll start with the sine that they give us. The sine of this angle, whatever the angle is, happens to be negative 4/5. Now, if we recall that sine is y over r. So it suffices to say that we could call r 5 and the y 4. Which one's going to get the negative sign? Because this negative sign has to go, I say this negative sign, this negative sign in a fraction can go on the top or the bottom, but not both, because that would make it positive. Well, what do we know about r? I'll give you a second. Yeah, it's got to always be positive. So this negative has to go on the 4. So the way I'm going to look at this is this is negative 4 over 5, and r is 5, and 4 is actually negative 4. So a real quick look at this will tell me that if y is negative 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, that means, and r is 5. Now r is the radius, so let's see. Here, let's do this. Ready? I will draw green. Let's make this, well, it doesn't have to be green. We'll just do a blue. Let's change the settings on this one. Let's not make it dashed, make it solid. Okay. So r has to be 5. It should be about this long. But r is the hypotenuse, so it's either going to be over here or over here. Because in both cases, r could be 5 and the y could be 4. So which one is it? Well, let's look at them both real quick, and we'll see. So we'll go here and here. So these are really our two options. So if r has to be 5 and the y has to be negative 4, these are both places where that would happen. Now you can kind of see why they tell us this. They want this whole thing to occur in quadrant 3, so they want this situation. Alright, so I don't have to worry about over here. Now I have this triangle, this one right here. I'm outlining in all blue now. I have negative 4 is one side, 5 is r. I need to find x. Alright. To find either x or y, it ends up looking, when you use the Pythagorean Theorem, you can set it up. You're going to end up doing this. So if you have x, if you want to find x, it's going to be the square root of r squared minus y squared. If at some later time we need to find y, it'll look very similar. It'll be square root of r squared minus x squared. Okay. So and if you want to, you can go ahead and do the whole Pythagorean Theorem thing using 4 or 5 and figuring out x, and that's the hypotenuse 5 is, so go ahead and figure it out, but you'll end up getting to this. So our x value is going to be 25, which is 5 squared, minus negative 4 squared. So negative 4 squared is positive 16, so it's going to be minus 16, which is going to be 9, correct? I believe so. My x is 9. So for this problem, I have an x value that is that right? 9? It's 3. Square root of 9 is 3. There we go. I didn't think that made sense. Fixed it. So x is 3, y is negative 4. Oh, is x 3? You gotta be careful on this one. What quadrant are we in? Look at that damn x is. That thing's off to the left. So that is a negative 3. Well, boy, don't forget that. All right, notice the math didn't tell me that. But the where I am does. That's a negative 3. So negative 3, negative 4, and r is 5. Positive 5, because r is always positive. Now I have all the information I need to find any of the trigonometric functions. Give me one. Any of them. Tangent, cotangent, cosecant, secant, cosine, any of them I can find, because I have the x, y, and r that defines all of them. They want the cosine. That's easy as pi. So that's going to be x over r. I said pi. That's funny because that shows pi shows up in trig a lot. That's beside the point. So it's going to be negative 3 over r, which is 5. So the cosine is negative 3/5. That's it. So what you want to do is sketch out your picture, figure out what quadrant you're in. You're going to be given 2 of these. Find the other one, either using, this, or the one we used earlier. If they give you an x and a y, it's going to be x squared plus y squared, right? So using one of those to find the missing piece, and then put it in to find your trig function. Okay. I don't know if we need to find an appropriate trigonometric identity, whatever. We're going to find the value of cosecant, given that cotangent is this in quadrant 4. So, first thing, I'm going to figure out what I have. Do I have an x, a y, an r? Do I have an x and a y, an x and an r, a y and an r? Which one do I have? So the cosine of this alpha is going to be negative 1/2. Now, let's see. Cotangent is x over y, right? Cotangent is defined as x over y. So I have a choice. Either x is equal to negative 1 and y is equal to 2, or I could have x equal to 1 and y equal to negative 2. Which one is it? Well, which one would make sense if we're in quadrant 4? In quadrant 4, let's see. X would have to be positive and y negative. So this makes more sense, not this. So we're going to go over 1 and down 2 to get to this location. And our triangle is going to look like this. This is a 1 and negative 2, and I need to find r. Well, finding r is pretty straightforward. R is going to be 1 squared plus negative 2 squared. That's 1 plus 4, that's 5. So r is the square root of 5. So I got x is 1, y is negative 2, r is the square root of 5. Bring it on. What do you want? Cosecant. Cosecant. Now that's the reciprocal of the sine. So the sine is y over r. The cosecant is r over y. So the cosecant in this case is square root of 5 over y, which is negative 2. If you wanted to, you could write it as negative square root of 5 over 2. However you want to write it. Alright, same process. We have sine of theta is negative 1/6. Now sine is, if you recall, sine is y over r, so the negative here does not go on the r, it's got to go on the y. So I have y negative, and r, of course, is positive. So the only places y is negative is in the third and fourth quadrants. So our side is either, let's see, down in here or down in here. And it's not a very long y, but that's 6. Actually, these would have to look like this. If you have a short y but a long r, then the only way that's going to occur actually is if I'm out here, right? So one of these two would have a tiny little negative 1 for y, but a 6 for r. But which one of those do we want? Do we want this x or do we want this x? Both are going to be the same size, but one's positive, one's negative. Which way do we go? Well, they tell you. They have to, otherwise we don't know which one to go to. Quadrant 4, so I don't want this guy. Now I got to find x. x is going to be square root of 6 squared minus negative 1 squared. That's 36 minus 1. That's 35. So x is the square root of 35. Positive, because it's in the fourth quadrant. That's where x is positive. And so I have my x, square root of 35. My y is negative 1. And my r is 6. And this tangent of our angle would be defined, of course, as y over x. And so that's going to be negative 1 over the square root of 35. Got to rationalize the denominator, so the tangent of our angle is going to be the negative square root of 35 over 35 when we multiply top and bottom by the square root of 35. Find the exact value of each of the remaining. Okay, so we're going to find all of them. Sine, cosine, well, they give us, sine, cosine, cosecant, tangent, cotangent, all based on two facts. The fact that the secant is negative 9 and that the sine has to be positive, which means y is positive. So, first of all, secant of an angle is defined as r over x. That means, well, negative 9. Where's the other part? Well, let's just look at it as negative 9 over 1. But I'm not going to put the negative on the 9, because the 9 is in the spot where the r was going to be. So if 9's r, it's got to be positive. So this really, I need to look at this as 9 over negative 1. That means x is negative 1 and r is equal to 9. Now we take a quick look and we see, where does that occur? Well, the only place, in a tiny little x, just negative 1. So we're going to, and r is 9. So we're going to go either up here or down here. Would both be situations where our x is negative 1 and our r is 9. But which one is it? Well, the sine has to be bigger than 0. Well, the sine is bigger than 0 in the second quadrant and the first quadrant. Well, the first quadrant's right out based on the fact that our x is negative, but the second quadrant still does the trick, so it's not this quadrant. So we have the triangle that I will now do in black, we'll say. No, not black. Let's do it in green. So this triangle right here. There's my missing y, there's my r, which is 9, and here's my x, which is negative 1. So I have y, which I have to find, r, which is 9, and I'm going to create some room, and an x, which is negative 1. I've got to find the y. The y is just going to be the square root of 9 squared minus negative 1 squared. That's 81 minus 1, which is 80. So y is the square root of 80, which is 4 times 20. No, let's go 16. I bet you 16 goes into it, right? Let's try it. So we're going to go 80 divided by 16 equals 5. So we're going to have this is going to come out to be 6 squared of 16 times 5, which is 4 times the square root of 5. So y is equal to 4 times the square root of 5. That gives me the three values as x equals negative 1, y equals 4 times the square root of 5, and r equals 9. And they want all the remaining 6. They want all of them, all the remaining whatevers. I'm sorry. So they are going to be, let's see, the sine of our angle is going to be y over r, which is going to be 4 square root of 5 over 9. The cosine of our angle is going to be negative 1 over r, which is negative 1/9. The tangent of the angle is going to be y over x, which is 4 square root of 5 over negative 1. The cosecant of our angle is going to be 9 over 4 square root of 5, but I got to rationalize that. So that's going to be 9 square root of 5 over 5 times 4 is 20. The secant is going to be -9, but we already knew that because they gave it to us. And the cotangent is going to be -1 over 4 square root of 5. We're going to have to rationalize that, so that's going to be square root of 5 over 20. It's negative, so negative square root of 5 over 20 will be the cotangent. So of course they gave us this one, and we found the rest of them. I'm having fun with the pen. All right. I believe. Yep. That's it. All right. I'll see everybody on our next class meeting, which I believe is the 25th. Take care. Bye.